Welcome to Shoot for Impact, where we help videographers build a successful and impactful videography business. Today's guest is Tiberius Green, a photographer of over 20 years, a close friend of mine, and a local to the Wilmington, North Carolina region. Today, we're going to talk about, is the Sony FX3 a good photo camera, and can you use it for professional work? Let's get started. Tiberius, thank you so much for joining me today on this podcast. I have a lot of people asking about photography with the Sony FX3, and you and I have talked about this before. Can it be used as a photography camera?
It can, but there's limitations. There's limitations.
Well, man, we've had this conversation several months ago. It's actually been quite some time since you and I have had the opportunity to speak. It seems like when you were working at Best Buy, we had way more time to chat, but since then your business has skyrocketed, and rightfully so. You produce some amazing videos and amazing photos for a large variety of different clients. So congratulations on all your success.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So the conversation I want to jump in first, and then we'll kind of go from there, is can the Sony FX3 be used as a professional photography camera?
It's a 50-50 street from my perspective. Mm-hmm. Yes and no. It's really beneficial for quick thumbnails or social media posts. You can get a 12 megapixel image and use it on websites and all that other kind of stuff. Where it shines in that aspect over the other cameras is it also uses the FX3's wide dynamic range, which most of the other Sony cameras don't have that wide range. Mm-hmm. And you can take that 12 megapixel image, and if you throw it in Lightroom, you can enhance that image, and it brings it up to a high resolution image without losing any of your detail. So,
wow,
it can work.
I didn't know.
Do I use it? Not much. I don't use it that much, but I mean, when you're in the pinch and you only have that camera and you're out filming and you don't have your other camera with you, you can do it. You know, it's just, mm-hmm. I would much rather use a photo camera that has a higher resolution mm-hmm. megapixel count than the 12 megapixel. But in the pinch, if you're filming and then that sunset's there and all you have is your video camera, you can make it can work. So,
okay. Interesting.
I wouldn't take it on like a, say like, oh, I'm going to do a portrait session and take my FX3 and just do all the photos with it. I probably would not do that. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of photos that you got to up res and mm-hmm. enhance and all that.
And time is money.
And the other side to the photo end of it professionally is when you shoot with FX3, being that it's 12 megapixels, mm-hmm. you don't have the ability to crop. So you have to frame it in your head and know that that's your final frame. So you have to like put your camera in that 4:3 mode or 2:3 or whatever it is, or 16:9 if you're shooting vertical portraits. But you have to literally keep your frame in that camera, because with something with 32 or 60 megapixels, you can crop in later. FX3, you can't crop in after that. That's the image. Because if you try to crop in now, you're going to be at like 8 megapixels or something, and it's no longer good.
You bring up a good point. So you have to get it out of camera, from what you're saying. Get it in camera, your composition and your aspect ratio. In what ways, if I were to crop in later, how would I see that affect my image? So would it look?
You'd have to go back. You'd have to go back the other route and enhance. If it's something you really want to keep, you'd have to enhance that image and then go back and crop later.
Okay. And if I didn't enhance the image and I just cropped that 12 megapixel photo, would I see it in the colors, the sky, the sharpness, resolution?
It's at the end of the day, it's still 12 megapixels. Mm-hmm. So, but the other thing is you're getting that 10-bit color and everything as well.
Okay, perfect. Something that you mentioned is you get the wide dynamic range from the Sony FX3 when you're shooting with the photos. You use the A7 IV, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
for
That's my
video,
photography camera. Yep.
for photography. Can you leverage the dynamic range, or is it the same as the FX3?
It's less. It's probably
Okay.
like, it's not much, but it's less enough. But the other reason why the FX3 does shine photo wise, and Sony's going to probably fix this at some point, maybe, I don't know.
Hopefully.
But the FX3, even though it's 12 megapixels, you can shoot in low light better than you can with the regular camera, because you bump it up to 12,800 and you're still getting that clear resolution at 12 megapixels.
That's good for anyone who wants the fast shutter.
Yeah. So if you want to pop that shutter really fast, edit more of a nighttime thing, you pop it to 12,800 and you still have that dynamic range in the photos. So it works there too.
Something that somebody was saying often when it comes to that 12 megapixels, that's generally the reason why they don't get a Sony FX3 to shoot photos. Although there's an argument, it's the same camera as the A7S III. It still shoots photos and it does video as well. Generally, in your line of work, Tiberius, you need 12 megapixels for social media content. I mean, almost 90% of the time, these photos will be online, compressed. If you're shooting for a billboard, that's slightly different. You actually need fewer megapixels because they blow it up.
Well,
right?
if you're shooting for a billboard, first thing I'm going to do is not use my FX3 for that. That's the first thing we do. Because you're being hired for a ginormous billboard, you need that resolution. I would probably, I mean, my A7 IV is good, but if I was getting paid for billboard work, I would probably rent like a A7R5 or something, just so I can get that 60 megapixel image. That'll give me a safe spot. 12 megapixel, I mean, unless a 12 megapixel sensor on the FX3, your max print size, I think, is 8x10, if I'm not mistaken, of high quality resolution. But if you enhance it, you can pop out up to 16x30 or something like that, you know. But so like, if you're not printing your media at all and you're just doing stuff for websites and thumbnails and Instagram, use the FX3 all the time. There ain't no problem with it at all. As long as you frame it correctly. I mean, you're not going to be able to pull much detail editing wise that you can from a higher resolution.
Right.
But so if you shoot in like, you know, a standard profile and just do minor coloring, but not pulling it and stretching it, you should be able to pull off some, you know, like there's some images on my Instagram that are just, they're all some of them are FX3 shots, not all of them, but I mean, I post them on there, but you would never even notice a difference. Like there's one from the wedding that we did in Oak Island of where the sun was setting when you were flying your drone that way. I was filming the pier. I shot it at the pier, but it looked like the sun was coming from the pier, not on the horizon. It was weird. But I shot that image. That was an FX3 image. So, I mean, it wasn't like because I didn't have my photo camera there. I had the FX3 with me. So I used that and I snapped that picture while I was there, and it was a FX3 image.
So I'm finding a common theme here then, and we'll talk through some of these things. Shutter speed we'll chat about next to determine whether or not we should use it professionally. But it seems like as of right now, it can do photo, it can do video. It's great for photo if you're slightly in a pinch. If you're hired to do photography work, you should probably get a different camera. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Something that I'm getting asked a lot is the frame rate. You know, traditional photography camera has a burst rate of sometimes 20, 24.
Something like that. Yeah.
I don't know what the FX3 is. It's probably lower, right?
I'm going to guess it's around 10. I don't ever use burst rate on the FX3 anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not a burst rate photographer. Like
me neither.
You have a little guest.
Oh yeah, that's you can't when you're a dad, you can't ignore this stuff. It just happens. You got to let it happen.
Walking through frame.
Yep.
But
so
yeah,
it's 10 frames per second. How fast is the A7 IV?
I think it is. I'm not sure. I'm going to say that because I believe the A7 IV, and like I said, I don't use burst at all anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I snap all my shots, but
Right.
the A7 IV I think suffers from the same thing where it's the burst rate is like I think 10 or 11 compressed and like I think it's like 6 uncompressed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's low. I mean, that's what I think a lot of people are complaining about the 4, but since I don't use it, I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. I don't. But these are
Yeah.
reasons why, even though I had the FX3 for a couple of years since like 20, I don't know, 2020 maybe. I don't
Yeah, you
remember.
got me hooked on it. Sold all my
Yeah,
Canon gear because of you.
yeah, I'm the one to blame. Yep. But so I got that, but then like I knew, that I did need one specifically for video and one specifically for photo. Now,
Mm-hmm.
even though the FX3 can get you by, like there's a I forget the Sony just dropped like 20 cameras in like the last year, so I'm kind of like
Yeah.
I don't know all those little
Over it.
ones, but there was one that they just recently released that had the S3 FX3 sensor in it, and people are like, oh, blah blah blah, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's smaller,
The
but it's one of the
ZVE1 or something
it's
like
one of
that.
those. It's the successor to
It's
the
actually
E1 or
slightly
something.
impressive, though. It's
No,
slightly impressive.
that's what I was going to get at is you can pull off good video. You can't get the 60 and the 120 and 12,800, but
Mm-hmm.
that smaller camera for basic stuff like this, it can look like this podcast right now.
Yep.
You can get
Yep.
it to look just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's a 12 megapixel sensor, if you're just getting something for streaming and social media stuff and just Instagram pictures, then yeah, like that, the same rules will apply for that 12 megapixel sensor on that camera.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like you can use that camera if you just want to just make YouTube videos and take some pictures and thumbnails. Like you don't need a ginormous FX3 or like me and
Mm-hmm.
buy that and the A7 IV
Yep.
and soon the FX6, and then you don't need to go that whole route. Like just
Oh yeah. There's also, with more time invested, you can also just grab screenshots if, of course, your shutter speed is right, but you can generally grab screenshots from a video. It takes more
yeah,
work and you don't have
yes,
more
yes
flexibility.
and no. There's a downside because I've been doing that too.
Mm-hmm.
I've been putting it in extra wedding films where I'm just giving them some screen grabs. But
Ah.
the problem with your screen grabs, and since I don't really edit in 16 by 9, I do like 2 by 1.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have all these screenshots at 2 by 1. So if you look on any kind of gallery, it's just 2 by 1, 2 by 1. There's no variation. You can't crop a portrait out of a 2 by 1 screenshot because then it's going to be really blurry and it just looks like
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried that a couple times. It just
yeah,
looks
it's not gonna.
cartoonish.
Yeah, it's cartoonish. It's not detailed. Like you'd be better off just taking the snapshot with the FX3
Yep.
while you're there. But
So some of these other questions that, okay, actually, so the setbacks and the benefits of using the Sony FX3. Let's start with the setbacks from the perspective of a photographer. In your opinion, what are some of the setbacks that this camera has if I was going to shoot professional photography?
I mean, probably only has that one setback of it being 12 megapixel sensor. But like we said, you need that 12 megapixel in order to have the qualities of the FX3 for video. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
the FX3 wasn't made for photography. So, I mean,
The megapixels.
getting into it. If you're spending $3,800 in FX3, I'm pretty sure you know what's in it.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
And there's enough videos to show you what it can do and what it can't do. All these, FX3 photo videos and whatnot. But like, and everybody's going to say the same thing pretty much. But some of the info here today, you can see a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is the people who are considering the FX3 are people who want to shoot video. They're videographers first, but they shoot photos on the side, kind of like me. Like if I see something beautiful and I have already captured my video and I'm still there and it's still set up, why not grab a photo? I did this recently in Washington, and it seemed like everyone enjoyed those photos, but they were all shot with the FX3 in the photo mode, which isn't too difficult to set up. Thinking about setbacks, it doesn't have a viewfinder. Do you use a
Yeah,
viewfinder?
nope. I don't even use it on my. I don't even use it for photography at all, ever.
Wow, really?
I think the last time I used a viewfinder, I mean, sometimes I look through it, but I'm like, I don't like it because I can't. I have if I want to get some shot, I have to go down or up or move around, and I'm always like, I can't. I
Yep.
don't like that feel, and
Yeah.
so I'm just like, and with the flippy screen, like I can just move it all around and vertical it, and just it's just so much easier to just
Yep.
use the the screen instead of the viewfinder.
Hmm.
So that doesn't bother me. And since the S3 was pretty much a video camera, I think it's kind of ridiculous that it has a viewfinder. Because I mean, like I don't
Ah,
because if you're using it mainly for video, I am definitely never using a viewfinder for video. That's just
yeah.
crazy talk for me.
You need a
Like,
monitor. You use a
yeah, you
monitor?
need yes, I
Okay.
do. I just
Which
use it
one?
for Fosco. I use the Shinobi, uh, the Atmos Shinobi,
Ah,
because
gotcha.
I mean, I was gonna get the five at one point, but the five has like, it has all this extra stuff and the recording pro. I don't record on none of that stuff. I'm
Yeah.
too much, and my little MacBook Pro is not going to handle all that extra. So,
Hmm.
and all I needed was for the screen. I'm not recording to it, so why spend a couple $100 more on something I just need for a view? So,
That's a good point, man. That's a good point.
and
I mean,
if you're
that's a
just
whole
using it
nother
for a viewpoint,
conversation.
yeah, if you're using it just for like the view, then you don't need all the extra bells and whistles of the Ninja 5.
Hmm.
Downside is it only streams in 1080 at 60. So if you're filming, a wedding in 60 FPS,
Ah.
you're getting your screen is 1080. And if you flip to 120, your screen don't work because it can't register that.
But
So
you're still capturing the media in 4K.
yeah, you're still capturing it in 4K in camera.
Okay.
The display will be black if you switch over to 120 because
Ah.
so I'm like, I mean, I only shoot in 60 really anyway, so
Hmm.
I don't really care. I put it on 60 and I don't need all the resolution for false color anyway. Like
Right.
it's just the color of the light, so I don't really need the detail. And
Hmm.
which we're getting completely on topic of screens and whatnot, but
Speaking of trying to get back on topic, something that we failed to mention before, you went to a college for photography for a while. What was the
Savannah College of Art and Design, one of the top art schools in the world, where we have there's like four campuses now. I think there's one in Savannah, one in Atlanta, one in Lacoste, France, and then one in like I don't know if it's Japan or China. It's over there somewhere far
Ah,
away.
wow. So that's another
But
reason why people should trust your perspective as a videographer, but primarily a
well,
photographer as well too.
I've been playing with cameras since I was 3 years old. So, um, but I only got heavily into the photography probably in 2005. So I've been a photographer since 2005, like professionally.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Over I'm over 500 plus photo sessions by now, or something like that.
Woo!
Yeah.
So you've learned a thing
So
or two. So let's use that experience. Who, if I want to shoot photos with the Sony FX3, will it or will it not apply? Let's break down some industries to see if you would suggest it. Let's start with wedding. Would you shoot a wedding with photos with the FX3?
professionally, no. BTS for sure.
Okay. Real estate. Would you shoot real estate homes with the FX3?
I would probably say yes. Um,
Got that
Mainly
dynamic
because
range.
the dynamic range, yes, but mainly because you can with real estate, you only need so many shots. So like you can get away with like
Yeah.
20 shots of a place, and the time it takes to enhance those 20 images is not enhancing 200 from a photo session.
That's
So
a good point.
it'll take less time, and you can work with it. And the reason why I said low resolution isn't too bad there
Hmm.
because you have a bunch of I don't want to say jokers out there, but everybody that goes out and they're like, I'm a real estate photographer, and they bring their iPhone and then they batch them all on HDR on their phone and ship them off. And I'm like, so if you're going to use at least 12 megapixels on, your FX3, it's going to look a million times better than someone that's using their, their iPhone or something.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
But if you really want to crush it, then, with the A7 IV and then, A7R5 or something for that resolution, you can always bracket your shots and it'll look better than the FX3. But an FX3, honestly, you can get away with it easily. I can't say that, can't confirm or deny that I have not done that before, but
and I feel like it's also good, and we'll keep going, but it's also good to be mindful, like to always keep in mind, where are these photos going? I feel like we keep coming back to that too. Like if it's going
websites,
online,
Instagram and stuff like
MLS
that,
for real estate, they're going to compress the heck out of them anyway. So
you're not saving them at 300 DPI. You're only saving them at 72 anyway.
Right.
And,
right.
If they're going in magazines, it's still quality. You just enhance it and then you downscale it to CMYK at 72 PPI.
Yep.
Bob's your uncle.
What he said. Speaking of magazine, you shoot a lot of portrait work and lifestyle stuff, models, and would you use the FX3 as a photography camera in that line of work? This includes boudoir as well too.
I don't do that no more.
Gotcha. So not boudoir, but lifestyle model stuff.
I would say it depends. I have done it because I've been running tests on it, and one of the tests I ran was using completely, like you shouldn't do, but I was using the FX3 for an entire photo session with the 90mm macro lens on the FX3. So like I literally just went as far off the rails as you possibly could.
Wow.
And the images came out really nice. They worked.
No way. Do you have any on your Instagram I can check out?
I can send you like the ones that we've talked about in here, a few of them.
Yeah. But, send me a couple. We'll put those up on the screen.
There's some in my Instagram, on the portrait one, on the regular Instagram I have. You would never know between all of them which one is an iPhone, which one is A7 IV or an FX3. They all look the same.
Wow.
I mean, so like as long as if you've been doing photography for a long time, like I can do, honestly, like outside of A7R5s and 4s and FX3s, like I could literally take an entire portrait set. I can go downtown today, do a portrait session in 3 different locations, one person, multiple outfits in like 2 hours, and they'd have all their images by tomorrow done. But it's only because I've done over 500 of them that I can do them that fast. Like I know the eye and I know the look, and I just do it without thinking. It's like riding a bike.
Yep. Speaking about fast, sports photography. Can the FX3 hold up in sports photography? We're talking high shutter speeds.
It can, because at the end of the day, it is a camera with shutter speed. So as long as you follow the same laws of the exposure triangle, by using a fast shutter, but then you can pop the shutter really high because you can have the ISO at 12,800, and you can keep your low aperture. And if it's sunny, you just have, your ND. So honestly, like it would just be the same thing as before. This is a 12 pixel image, and you would have to upscale it if you want to print it or whatnot. But yeah, you can. It's capable.
You mentioned the exposure triangle. For anybody out there who doesn't know what that is, would you mind explaining?
Exposure triangle is a triangle: ISO, shutter speed, aperture. All 3 basically control light. So if you and you want to keep it in the center. So if you pull more on an aperture to increase more light, then you have to get it darker using either the ISO or the shutter speed. And there's millions of videos on that, but like that's the basic,
right?
But we could be a 2-hour podcast on exposure triangle alone. But that's pretty much it. You want to keep it in the center. If you move one side of the triangle, you have to move the other kind of, and you want to keep it in the center at all times. Only 2 can be really exposed. So if you want, fast shutter and wide open aperture, the opposite, high f-stop, then
Yep.
your ISO is going to have to be cranked. So like it's, but then you have high noise. But if and if you're talking video, you have DaVinci, you just pop it in noise reduction and Bob's your uncle again. And it's really simple.
Resolve is amazing. We'll have to do another podcast on just some of these other things that I know you've been working on, and vice versa.
So as you went from Canon, and I was responsible for you going to Sony FX3. I was on Premiere, and he's responsible for me going to DaVinci. So
guilty as charged. Are you full time in Resolve now?
Full time, 100%. I don't have anything in Premiere. The only time I go back into Premiere is I finish a project completely because I spent many years buying damn Premiere templates and titles and whatnot. Yep. So what I do is I'll export the whole video, finish everything I need in DaVinci, then bring it over, import it to Premiere, and then if I want to use the specific titles of places, then I put it on top there.
Yep.
So I could still use them, but it's just a pain in the neck because I can't. All the ones that I've purchased over the years, I can't transfer them over to DaVinci, so it's kind of.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Artlist.io, video's not sponsored by them, by the way. They have a lot of titles, transitions, and effects that I've been using recently in DaVinci Resolve.
Well, because I've searched for them, I can't find them. So.
Oh, okay.
And I pay for that.
I'll have to send you a link.
Yeah, because I pay for that $450 mega whatever thing.
Yeah,
you get everything. Like
you should see it in there. There's a link that integrates it into. I'll send you a link.
Unless it's recently, because I remember I looked like months ago and I couldn't find anything. There was only like Premiere Pro and Final Cut, and I'm like, I can't. I'm like, damn it. But
they're very intuitive. I actually don't use a lot of them, but there are a couple.
Cool I don't use. Yeah, I don't really use them as much. I mean, the only thing I really use the most is I forget where I got it from. It was like that M Cinematic stuff, like whatever website that's from. They have good stuff, and
they do like Motion VFX.
Motion VFX, yeah, not sponsored by that either.
Yep, you got to say that. So let's recap. It looks like I'm running out some Zoom time here. Let's recap really quick, and then I want to ask you one last question, maybe. So out of all of the questions that I've been getting asked, we've talked about them. We've answered some of them. First, can the camera be used professionally? Would you shoot professional photography with it? And your answer was no. If you're getting paid for professional work, it's a yes and no.
If the company isn't watching this video that's hiring you, you can do it and get away with it. Just don't tell them that it's lower resolution. You can do it. If you just don't want to have two cameras and you just want to do video and photo at the same time, you can get away with it. Just they'll never know you're taking a picture with it. They have no clue what's inside the camera. So if you need to, in a pinch, you could take some pictures with it. Yeah. They're like, is that a professional photo camera? Yes, it is. Don't.
It is a professional camera, and it is a photo capability camera.
I would say like 98% of the time, those people that ask that question, they just want to put it on social media anyway. So yeah, just say yes.
Yeah. And they're going to toss their own preset on it too once you give it to them.
Don't even get me started on those people.
I will
completely butcher our work when it goes on Instagram. Like put an Instagram filler on. I spent all this time editing, and then here's an Instagram filter on top of the wall. I'm like, don't you do that?
Oh no, it's happened to us all,
take my name off it if you're going to do that. Like, don't tag me. I don't want anybody to know that's my work.
Yep. 12 megapixels. You had mentioned there are limitations to 12 megapixels, but to answer this question, it's about where you're going to post that photo. 12 megapixels is fine for social media content generally, and 12 megapixels probably wouldn't work the best for billboards or for printing. Now, again, that is an open-handed conversation, not closed-handed. Some things do work, some things don't. But 12 megapixels, your thoughts on it?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's a shot that I can show you that I took with my phone, and it's better than. I mean, it's because the content is of a glacier. I mean, the content probably makes it look better, but it's because it's instead of using my actual like camera, I used a phone, and like it. Even though the phone says it's higher megapixels, it's a phone sensor, so it's still, I would consider it to be like 10 megapixels. You know, a phone sensor, and it's one of my favorite shots, and I'm probably gonna upscale it and print it for my wall because like
Wow.
so it doesn't really matter. Like you wouldn't even be able to tell. Like I could show it to you and you would be like, there's no way that's a phone picture. Like you would never know.
Man. Good lighting
So,
and good composition can trump most cameras most days.
and if you edit it correctly, you know, and since Lightroom now has all those like AI masking features that just like changed everything.
It's wild.
And then they put like that new denoise feature they have, which just like
I saw that. I use it now.
I use it on every single image.
It's pretty good.
It removes all the noise but keeps all the details. It's just like
sometimes it even gives it detail, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's some kind of sorcery. I don't know how it works. It just works, and then I'll just accept that.
So the last question I have for you, my dude, is would you recommend the Sony FX3 to anybody who wants a professional photography camera?
Probably not. If you're looking at professional photography itself, save yourself the extra 1,000 and get like the A7 IV for like, it's like 24 or 26. Because if you're not interested in video at all, there's no reason you should have an FX3. You know, like the FX3 is a video first camera for people like us that do video first and we can take pictures with it. But if you're looking for something like that takes photos first professionally, I would say the A7 IV, which is 33 megapixels, and it can do video second. So like that's where my take on that is. Like it's if you're gonna buy an FX3 just for photography, that's probably not the best decision at all.
So if I'm a videographer first and want to take a couple photos, then you might
FX3 is perfect. Yeah, 100%. I would say that's the best choice.
There it is, my dude. We have all perspectives, all things considered. Thank you so much for your time today. As you saw, there's a little guy running around back here somewhere. So excited that we got to chat today. Well, until next time, dude. I want to thank Tiberius Green for being our guest today on Shoot for Impact. If you found this video helpful and you want to support the reach of this community, head over to YouTube and subscribe to this channel. Make sure to click the little notification bell so you never miss a video. And thank you for watching Shoot for Impact.